Hello everyone, welcome to A Clear Perspective. I'm Serene. This is the first week that Taliban took control of Afghanistan. Desperate Afghans flocked to Kabul's airport. This scene shocked the whole world. Biden rushed back to the White House and gave an 18-minute speech. He emphasized that ending U.S. military involvement in Afghanistan now was the right decision. The U.S. military went to Afghanistan almost 20 years ago to fight terrorism. The goal was to hunt down bin Laden. This mission was completed 10 years ago. The Obama administration should be held accountable for not ending the war in Afghanistan 10 years ago. Let's briefly talk about the current situation in Afghanistan. During the first news conference following the takeover, Taliban spokesperson told the public that the forces were instructed not to enter anyone's house without permission. He said, quote, "We want to assure the residents of Kabul for full security, for protection of their dignity and security and safety." But Fox News reported that in Kabul, the Taliban fighters were going door to door seeking revenge on Afghans who have worked with or fought alongside Americans. According to CNN, several female journalists are said to have received threatening calls from the Taliban, with the calls increasing over recent days. The local citizens were absolutely terrified and preferred to stay at home. Almost all of the shops, offices, banks, and schools remained closed on Monday. There is also hardly any women to be seen on the streets, while it was common to see women in public before. The bustling streets of Kabul are now empty. Chaos unfolded at the Kabul airport as thousands flocked there to flee the country. Defense One published a photo taken from inside the aircraft and reported that the US C-17 was packed with 640 people. On Boeing's website, the official capacity of the airplane is 134 people, which is around one-fifth of the number of people on the aircraft. In my opinion, it was the right decision for America to withdraw from Afghanistan. Biden said in his speech that the U.S. military's mission in Afghanistan was completed a decade ago and that Americans have no obligation to help build the country. For this, Biden and Trump are on the same page. In other words, the Afghans have to fight for themselves. But because of the history and the culture of Afghanistan, the Afghans are so ignorant that they are not even willing to fight for their own freedom. The people we saw climbing onto the plane at the airport were young men. These men should have taken up arms to protect their families and children, but they left their loved ones behind and piled onto the plane. They are irresponsible people. Let's come back to Biden. The withdrawal of the U.S. military has turned into a chaotic mess, which is unacceptable to the international community. The failed withdrawal plan was criticized by both conservative and leftist media in the United States. Biden blamed Trump, the Afghan army, and the Afghan president for the current chaos. He said that he'd inherited a deal that left the Taliban in the strongest position militarily since 2001, and that Afghan forces are not willing to fight for themselves. The Wall Street Journal reported that Biden rejected the military general's proposal before planning to withdraw troops from Afghanistan. The generals had suggested that Biden leave 2,500 troops in Afghanistan and negotiate a peace deal with the Taliban. But Biden rejected those suggestions. Biden's claim that he was constrained by the Trump administration's agreement with the Taliban is also unfounded. The agreement was not approved by the Senate. Biden could abandon it like what he did with the Paris Climate Agreement. Biden announced on his first day in office that the U.S. is returning to the Paris Climate Agreement. Trump immediately responded to Biden's speech with, quote, "It is not that we left Afghanistan, it is the grossly incompetent way we left." Biden also said, "And our true strategic competitors, China and Russia, would love nothing more than the United States to continue to funnel billions of dollars in resources and attention into stabilizing Afghanistan indefinitely." This part is true. I agree with it. The U.S. wants to concentrate on dealing with the Chinese Communist Party's expansion in the Indo-Pacific region. The U.S. military was stationed in Afghanistan for 20 years in exchange for stability and freedom in Afghanistan. Not only was Afghanistan stabilized, but the entire Central Asia was stabilized, and the economy started to develop in this area. Beijing has taken advantage of this stability to promote the One Belt, One Road to Central Asia and West Asia. In other words, the U.S. military is actually protecting the interests of the CCP in Central Asia. Afghanistan has abundant natural resources, including vast amounts of oil, natural gas, copper, iron, which is valued at $3 trillion in total. It also contains gold, coal, and precious gems. In recent years, the CCP became the largest foreign investor in Afghanistan. It is actively involved in Afghanistan's natural resources and infrastructure projects. Strategically, Afghanistan is located at the crossroads of Asia, linking the Middle East, Central Asia, and Europe. Now, the future of Afghanistan becomes very uncertain after the withdrawal of U.S. troops and the emergence of the Taliban. The chaos in Central Asia is something that both the CCP and Russia will have to deal with on their own. Next, let's talk about Taiwan. Hu Xijin, the editor-in-chief of the CCP's propaganda media outlet Global Times, compared the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan to its exit from Saigon at the end of the Vietnam War in 1975. Hu claimed that the U.S. abandoned its ally. He also mentioned the withdrawal of U.S. troops from North Syria in 2019, claiming that the U.S. made the decision to abandon its Kurdish allies in Syria. He wrote on his blog, "How many times did the U.S. choose to abandon its allies in the past? Would it also abandon Taiwan at a critical moment?" But Hu omits one example. The U.S. also abandoned the Republic of China in 1940s, which led to mainland China falling into the hands of the CCP in 1949. The CCP is a violent and evil foreign organization that took control of China. The CCP used deception and violence to seize power. However, the Chinese people also made the wrong decision at that time. Their choice to follow the CCP led to the brutal ruling that they now still have to suffer. The Global Times also published an article saying that once a war breaks out in the streets, the island's defense will collapse in hours. However, if the CCP dares to use military force, not to mention the United States, Japan and South Korea will definitely not just sit and watch. So how did the Taiwan government respond to this? Taiwan Premier Su Zhenchang said, quote, "Today, a powerful country wants to annex Taiwan through the use of force. Likewise, we fear neither death or imprisonment. We will safeguard this country and this land." Su also said, "The real and the bloody lessons of Afghanistan show us that internal chaos renders any external assistance ineffective." Taiwan currently faces the threat of an imminent invasion by the CCP, and it's important for Taiwan to have the courage to do what is right. Why do I say this? Because I have seen some American commentators questioning why Americans should shed blood, sweat, and tears for Taiwan if the country isn't even willing to defend itself. The CCP is now launching military exercises around Taiwan. I think this is meant to test Taiwan's resolve, not the U.S. willingness to intervene. Just a week ago, a poll released by the Taiwan New Constitution Foundation found that 89.9% of Taiwanese people identify themselves as Taiwanese, while less than 5% think of themselves as Chinese. What is more noteworthy is that, given the rising tensions in the Taiwan Strait, only 36% of respondents said they would definitely go to war to defend Taiwan, while 28.3% said that they probably would. Another 16.2% said they would not go to war to defend Taiwan, while 7.4% shared no opinion. If we include the 28% who probably would go to war, the total percentage of Taiwanese willing to defend their country is about 65%. Many people today have a mentality that they only focus on acquiring wealth and disregard what's happening in the world. The problem with such a mentality is that what happens in the world affects everyone, and thus you cannot just ignore a problem that could directly affect you. As long as the CCP exists, there can be no peace for Taiwan or the world. Didn't COVID-19 come from a CCP lab? Hasn't everyone's lives been affected by it? Many of the powerful governments around the world have turned a blind eye to the evil practices of the CCP and have even colluded with them in order to make profit. Now, people all around the world are hard pushed to get vaccinated. Is this a kind of retribution? All these could be the result of people abandoning moral codes for material gain. If the majority of people publicly opposed the evil regime, the CCP would have collapsed. There would not be a CCP virus. The CCP has continuously supported Kim Jong-un in order to continue his brutal rule in North Korea. North Korea continues to threaten the free and democratic South Korea every day. But South Korea has been talking to the CCP about cooperation. Last month, the CCP's Foreign Minister Wang Yi met with the Taliban leader. Afterwards, the Taliban invaded Kabul. The last time Wang Yi met with the Burmese military, then a military coup happened in Burma. Furthermore, the CCP also destroyed the autonomy status of Hong Kong. The CCP is behind almost every evil country around the globe. Therefore, if mankind does not wake up and see the evil nature of the CCP, there will be dire consequences. Thus, I think it is crucial that Taiwan must be determined to oppose the Communist Party, just as the Taiwan Premier Su Zhenchang said, "Only by helping oneself can one be helped by others." I would say only by helping oneself can one be blessed by God, because God helps those who help themselves. I think in the event of an invasion, the first country to help Taiwan must be Japan, because if Taiwan is taken by the CCP, Japan and Korea will be its next targets. In addition to Japan, Australia is also a powerful ally. If such a time comes, many countries will have to choose sides and show the world what they truly uphold. That's all for today. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you next time.